What just happened at the White House press room will leave you speechless. Did Trump's new press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, just humiliate a CNN reporter live on air for shamelessly lying? And why is the mainstream media in full-blown panic mode after being called out for pushing misinformation? Like, guys, you will not believe how Trump's team exposed $50 million in taxpayer funds earmarked for condoms in Gaza, halted racial or radical DEI and this Green New Deal funding scam, and froze woke spending programs overnight. Appreciate you guys hitting the like button. Thank you so much for subscribing to the channel.
And I will say it's very easy to speak truth from this podium when you have a president who is implementing policies that are wildly popular with the American people. And that's exactly what this administration is doing. It's correcting the lies and the wrongs of the past 4 years, many of the lies that have been told to your faces in this very briefing room. I will not do that. But since you brought up Truth Seek, I would like to point out, while I vowed to provide the truth from this podium, we ask that all of you in this room hold yourselves to that same standard. We know for a fact there have been lies that have been pushed by many legacy media outlets in this country about this president, about his family, and we will not accept that. We will call you out when we feel that your reporting is wrong or there is misinformation about this White House. So yes, I will hold myself to the truth, and I expect everyone in this room to do the same.
One, on the freeze in federal funding, who advised the president on the legality of telling government agencies that they don't have to spend money that was already appropriated by Congress?
Well, as the OMB memo states, this is certainly within the confines of the law. So White House counsel's office believes that this is within the president's power to do it, and therefore he's doing it.
Okay, so they disagree with lawmakers who say that they don't have the power to freeze this funding.
Again, I would point you to the language in the memo that clearly states this is within the law.
Now, keeping in mind, guys, that was Caitlin Collins from CNN.
Across the board, freeze, with some exceptions for individual assistance, we understand, to federal grants. It's caused a lot of confusion around the country among Head Start providers, among providers services to homeless veterans, Medicaid providers, states saying they're having trouble accessing the portal. Could you help us clear up some of the confusion, give some certainty to folks, and also, is that uncertainty, how does that uncertainty service the president's voters?
Well, I think there's only uncertainty in this room amongst the media. There's no uncertainty in this building. So let me provide the certainty and the clarity that all of you need. This is not a blanket pause on federal assistance and grant programs from the Trump administration. Individual assistance, that includes, I'm not naming everything that's included, but just to give you a few examples, Social Security benefits, Medicare benefits, food stamps, welfare benefits, assistance that is going directly to individuals will not be impacted by this pause. And I want to make that very clear to any Americans who are watching at home who may be a little bit confused about some of the media reporting. This administration, if you are receiving individual assistance from the federal government, you will still continue to receive that. However, it is the responsibility of this president and this administration to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. That is something that President Trump campaigned on. That's why he has launched DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, who is working alongside OMB. And that's why OMB sent out this memo last night, because the president signed an executive order directing OMB to do just this. And the reason for this is to ensure that every penny that is going out the door is not conflicting with the executive orders and actions that this president has taken. So what does this pause mean? It means no more funding for illegal DEI programs. It means no more funding for the Green New scam that has cost American taxpayers tens of billions of dollars. It means no more funding for transgenderism and wokeness across our federal bureaucracy and agencies.
But guys, this is just the start. 12 prosecutors were fired without warning, shaking the DOJ to its core, while Colombia folded under Trump's tough stance on immigration, proving that peace through strength is back in action. And ICE agents, well, they've never felt more empowered as mass deportations are underway. Hey, by the way, guys, if you're one of the real ones who really enjoy what we do here on the channel, you've got to check out the Inner Circle. This is where our true supporters get exclusive access to content that I just can't share here, completely commercial free. It's also the best way to keep this channel going strong. So if you want to be a part of something special, join us over there. Links in the description or in the pinned comment down below.
To the language in the memo that clearly states this is within the law.
And all that happened on Friday night. The administration fired several inspectors general without giving Congress the 30-day legally required notification that they were being fired. I think only 2 were left at DHS and the DOJ. And then yesterday we saw several prosecutors, I believe 12, fired from the Justice Department who worked on the investigations into the president. As you know, they are career prosecutors, therefore they are afforded civil service protections.
Absolutely. I'll echo the answer that the president gave on Air Force One last night when he was asked a very similar question by one of your colleagues in the media. This signifies peace through strength is back. And this president will not tolerate illegal immigration into America's interior. And he expects every nation on this planet, again, to cooperate with the repatriation of their citizens who illegally entered into our country and broke America's laws. Won't be tolerated. And as you saw, the Colombian government quickly folded and agreed to all of President Trump's demands. Flights are underway once again.
So is this Trump cleaning house once and for all? Like, is he really cleaning house like he promised us on the campaign trail? Or will Democrats and the media continue their emotional meltdown to try and distract us from his bold leadership? Well, I think that the answers will shock you.
Tax dollars actually matter to this administration. You know, just during this pause, DOJ and OMB have actually found that there was $37 million that was about to go out the door to the World Health Organization, which is an organization, as you all know, that President Trump, with the swipe of his pen in that executive order, is no longer wants the United States to be a part of. So that wouldn't be in line with the president's agenda. DOJ and OMB also found that there was about to be 50 million taxpayer dollars that went out the door to fund condoms in Gaza. That is a preposterous waste of taxpayer money. So that's what this pause is focused on, being good stewards of tax dollars.
So stay tuned, guys, as we unpack every jaw-dropping moment, and from media lies being exposed to Trump's total war on wasteful spending. This isn't just another press briefing, guys. This is Washington in free fall, and the stakes could not be higher. So in a fiery briefing, the Trump administration laid down the law and sent a very clear message to the American people and to the media. This is an administration that stands for truth, for accountability, and protecting taxpayer dollars, no matter how hard the mainstream media tries to spin it. Now, the spokesperson, Caroline Leavitt, Trump's press secretary for the White House, she didn't mince no words, calling out the media's history of pushing misinformation and then like calling other people who basically reject their propaganda, calling their information as misinformation. They've been lying to the American public for years and lying about the Trump administration. But we're vowing, and Trump is vowing, to correct the record with very bold transparency. Watch.
But since you brought up Truth Seek, I would like to point out, while I vow to provide the truth from this podium, we ask that all of you in this room hold yourselves to that same standard. We know for a fact there have been lies that have been pushed by many legacy media outlets in this country about this president, about his family, and we will not accept that. We will call you out when we feel that your reporting is wrong or there is misinformation about this White House. So yes, I will hold myself to the truth, and I expect everyone in this room to do the same.
So while Democrats continue their emotional crusade and media allies obsess over non-stories, Trump's team is hard at work cleaning up this whole fiscal disaster left behind by the Biden administration. And that pause on certain federal grants, it's not an attack on essential services like Social Security or disaster aid, despite a lot of this media hysteria. Instead, it's a smart and necessary review to stop funding wasteful and ideologically driven projects. Like, think of radical green policies and DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion programs that do nothing for hardworking Americans. So Trump's plan to halt funding to bloated bureaucracies, it's not just responsible, it's essential. Examples of absurd expenditures uncovered during this pause include $500 million for freaking condom distributions in Gaza and millions more to the World Health Organization. This is an entity that Trump rightly distanced the United States from. Now, this administration is putting Americans first. ensuring that taxpayer money aligns with their will, not the far left's agenda. And let's talk about law and order, guys. Trump's unapologetic stance on immigration is back in full force. After showing strength and zero tolerance for nations refusing to cooperate on repatriation, Colombia folded under pressure, proving once again that peace through strength actually does work. And meanwhile, you got ICE agents who pretty much felt shackled under the previous Biden and Kamala Harris administration. They're now empowered to finally be able to do their jobs without any kind of interference, making our borders and our communities safer. I think that the message is very clear. Trump is restoring accountability and fiscal sanity while standing firm against left-wing excess. This isn't chaos, it's leadership. This is something that Democrats and mainstream media might never admit, but the American people, we can plainly see it.
Yes,
Caroline. When you're up here in this briefing room speaking to the American public, do you view yourself and your role as advocating on behalf of the president or providing the unvarnished truth that is, not to lie, not to obfuscate to the American people?
I commit to telling the truth from this podium every single day. I commit to speaking on behalf of the President of the United States. That is my job. And I will say it's very easy to speak truth from this podium when you have a president who is implementing policies that are wildly popular.
So guys, what do you guys think about Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt here? Especially, compare Caroline Leavitt to Joe Biden's Karine Jean-Pierre. What do you guys think? Caroline Leavitt, Karine Jean-Pierre. Let me know in the comments down below, guys.
There has been thought, I believe, given to this. Senator Ron Wyden has already issued statements, for example, advising what we should do in a situation like this, which I concur, which is that I believe that the Biden administration should ignore this ruling. I think that the courts have the legitimacy and they rely on the legitimacy of their rulings. And what they are currently doing is engaged in an unprecedented and dramatic erosion of the legitimacy of the courts. It is the justices themselves, through the deeply partisan and unfounded nature of these rulings, that are undermining their own enforcement.
So you're saying the Biden administration should ignore this court, but what does that look like? What does that actually mean?
I think the interesting thing when it comes to a ruling is that it relies on enforcement. And it is up to the Biden administration to choose whether or not to enforce such a ruling.
But is
AOC okay? Is she mentally okay? It seems like what AOC is suggesting here is that, the Biden administration should have just simply ignored the courts. Isn't that treason? Where does this lady get off? And I think I understand why a lot of people feel like she should be fired and removed from her position. So I don't know if you guys heard, but the government is laying people off now. And in some cases, they're actually firing people. And I'm specifically talking about the federal government, not necessarily the state level government, but depending upon what state you're in, state employees could end up getting fired too because of how they're using federal funds, and if they are basically if they're breaking the rules in terms of what some of these sanctuary cities are doing. But the point I wanted to make with you guys is that a lot of people used to think of job security being a job that you never have to worry about a paycheck from, a job that you never had to worry about getting laid off from, a job that you felt like would never go out of business because it was just so stable, and people fell for the illusion of job security. And the fact of the matter is, the truth of the matter is that there's no such thing as job security. It's funny, if you go for job security, you will never be secure. But if you go for financial independence, you will almost inevitably become financially secure. It's kind of like a counterintuitive thought process. If you go for job security, you can guarantee you'll always be insecure. But if you go for financial independence, it's like security is the byproduct, even though the independence was what you're going for. And in this case, there are FEMA employees that were just announced. They haven't actually released any names, but I just saw that there were some FEMA employees that are getting fired. And Elon Musk's Doge, Department of Government Efficiency, they are actually going through the federal budget and they're identifying all of these different budget lines where they're wasting our taxpayer money. Now, there's two things that suck most of your money. Whether you're a business owner or you're an employee at a 9-to-5 company, number one, your living expenses, and number two, taxes. And depending upon what income bracket you're in, depending upon what tax bracket you're in, those might flip-flop. Typically, if you're like lower middle class and maybe as high as middle class, typically your living expenses will be higher than your taxes. But if you're like upper class, going toward the 1% of the income generating population, then you could actually be spending a lot more on taxes than you do for living expenses because you just make so much more income that your tax bill's higher. But here's the thing, guys. These folks who had these believed to be secure jobs, they thought they were good. They could live, they probably felt comfortable living paycheck to paycheck, because there's a statistic out here that says like 60% of Americans don't have $1,000 set aside to cover an unexpected emergency. So that already tells you that most people don't have an emergency fund. So this just kind of proves just one reason why an emergency fund is so important. And it's like one of the legs of the stool that you need to have if you want to have any degree of financial security, financial independence. This is a requirement. And of course, this video is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, but I have built a 7-figure net worth, and I've achieved that in my 30s. So I think I know what I'm talking about. And I've also been broke before, and I've been rich before. I mean, I'm rich now, but I'm just saying, like, I've done both. And they say money doesn't generate happiness or something like that. I probably screwed it up, but you know what I'm saying. We've all heard the colloquialism that money doesn't make you happy, and money doesn't make you happy. But I'll tell you what does make me unhappy, these loud windshield wiper blades. That don't make me happy. But guess what? What's going to fix it? I'm going to go ahead and pay somebody $100 to swap them out for me. And so that's what money does. Money gives you options. Money makes your life easier. If your life is harder, then I'm pretty sure you're going to be less happy than if your life was easy. If you had an extra 10 grand in an account that you forgot about, but you had an unexpected emergency, all of a sudden this unexpected emergency is suddenly not really an emergency, it's an inconvenience more than anything else. And I'd rather be inconvenienced temporarily until I literally log into the bank account or swipe my credit card so I can just send some money to make this problem go away. And that's essentially what an emergency allows you to do. An emergency fund allows you to make emergencies go away. An emergency allows you the freedom and financial flexibility to be able to be like, you know what, whatever, I ain't dealing with this. You know, pay to make this problem go away. And the FEMA employees today who are getting this unexpected notice that you're now unemployed, you can already bet your bottom dollar that there's a significant percentage of those folks who probably did not have an emergency fund. Just looking at the United States personal finance statistics, most people don't have 3 to 6 months emergency fund stored away. And it goes even beyond that. Like, if you're going for financial security, number one, don't look for it in a job. I'll tell you that. I don't care if you work for the government or you work for a private company, private organization. Maybe you work for a publicly traded company that's on the Dow Jones or the NASDAQ or the S&P 500 on the stock market. There's no such thing as job security. Your security is tied between your ability to generate income regardless of who's paying you, and or your ability to have stored income to tie you over for X amount of period of time. So, for example, in the first instance, if you want financial security, financial independence, you are more independent by having a combination of skills that allow you to earn income, whether you work for the company you work for now, or you could work for any other company and they would pay you at least the amount that you're earning now or more. That will set you apart and put you into the rare population of folks who are in a situation of financial independence, or at least a degree of financial independence, because there's levels to this shit. And that's just one of the levels. One of the levels is you have a combination of skills that are in demand, and you know that if your job were to go away today, you could be employed again within the next week. So that's one level of financial independence. Another level of independence is having enough savings, investments, and assets that allow you to not necessarily have to work for an extended period of time. Now, most financial gurus or whatever will say, oh, you need to have 3 to 6 months living expenses. I think that's a great minimum amount to have. But I want more than that. I don't like knowing that the clock is ticking and I only got 3 months or I only got 6 months. I want to know I got 10 years where I don't have to worry about anything. But you got to start somewhere. So I think 3 to 6 months is a good starting point. But again, that's only the starting point. Obviously, you want to graduate from just having an emergency fund to having actual investments that pay you passive income that appreciate over time. Most people are wasting most of their money on living expenses and their car, which kind of falls under living expenses. But a lot of people end up spending so much money on their car that their car actually drags down their ability to build an emergency fund faster because their car's so expensive. And the car, maybe they selected the wrong car and it cost them a lot to buy it and it's costing a lot to keep it. Depending upon the kind of car you have, you may feel obligated to buy a extended warranty because you don't trust the reliability of the car. And you're fearful, and I hate to use the word fearful, but sometimes folks find themselves in a situation of being fearful that something catastrophic could happen with the car and it might bankrupt them. So people feel inclined to buy warranties simply because the car has a reputation of not being worry-free, or might have a reputation of having expensive repairs likely. So, and you guys might know what kind of cars I'm talking about. If you're driving, and I'm not saying these are bad cars. I'm not saying that these are bad cars, but I'm just going to name a few that have very high maintenance costs, and the more complicated a car is, the more likely that it is something to go wrong. Imagine if you have, just a quick side example, if you live in a one bedroom, one bath house, how many toilets could possibly go, could break on you? Well, you only got one bathroom, so the worst thing that could happen is that one toilet stop working, right? But if you have a 6 bedroom, 6 bath house, how many toilets could possibly break on you? 6. Now, it's not likely all 6 will break at one time, but the simple fact of the matter is that the more complexity you have, the more features in your car you have, the more technology in your car you have, the more likely that some or all of those things could break, fail, or malfunction. So you got to think about these things when you're selecting the car, because you don't want your car to impair your ability to build wealth. And we're entering a new economy. Donald Trump is now our current president, and Elon Musk is the overseer, manager. He's the leader of the DOGE, or Department of Government Efficiency. And so we're entering a new era. And this is really good for America from a government spending perspective. Now, I'm not really sure how tariffs will impact America. I'm not really sure how, if it's going to be good or bad. I don't know how much the deportation of illegal immigrants is going to affect the cost of goods here. So there's some variables that are out there that are, let's just say, unpredictable, and there's some uncertainty in the marketplace. And I'll give you a good example. By the way, if you guys are enjoying the conversation, hit the like button. I really appreciate your support. I do. I like to ask that if you enjoy the conversation, consider subscribing to the channel as well. So let's not act like we don't realize that there are illegal immigrants here who are not bad people. They're not bad people. Sure, they broke the law coming into the country. I'm not going to deny that. But I'm not going to say there's a single American who's never broken a law. So let's get off of our high horses just for a moment, because I will say this: if you've ever driven a car and you've gone over the speed limit, let's just say it's 45 or 55 or 65 or 70 miles per hour on the road, if you've ever done 1 mile an hour over that speed limit, that's the limit that you're supposed to go. So you're breaking the law probably every day throughout the day that you drive your car if you're ever going 1 mile an hour over the speed limit. Now, I'm not saying we should go to jail for that, but I'm just saying and I'm not taking sides. I'm just saying there is no one on this planet that hasn't done some wrong. Are there levels of wrong? Oh, sure. So anyway, now that I've said that, you need to consider the fact that there are some illegal immigrants, or many illegal immigrants, who have worked in this country supporting their families for a very long time. They've been doing that in various industries, particularly in the construction industry. Now, I'm just saying, I'm not trying to get political with you guys. I'm making a point here. You need to understand where I'm coming from, so that you can understand how this is going to affect your bank account, your money, and our economy. Okay? So what happens now when all of a sudden these home builders have lost 50% of their employees, or they were likely just contractors or day workers, right? So what happens when this contractor, and it might be, I don't know, I'm going to name some home builders that I can think of off the top of my head: Toll Brothers, Ryland Homes. Okay, I've already exhausted all the ones I can think of. But the point is you got home builders like those companies and independent entrepreneur business owners who routinely hire very skilled labor that happen to be illegal immigrants, who are willing to work for a fraction of the price that an actual legal visa or American citizen is willing to work for. Now, if their labor costs suddenly spike by 200%, 300%, 400%, what do you think is going to happen to the price of homes being built? What do you think's going to happen if, so if that happens, you already bet your bottom dollar, these home builders aren't going to start making less money because they got to take on these higher expenses. They're going to raise the price of the homes. So I'm just saying, like, we need to be aware of what's happening here. And we need to position ourselves to be able to, number one, minimize the impact and ideally make money from it. Because that's what we're trying to do. We're not trying to, it's not about being greedy. It's not about being greedy. You know, there's rich people who are greedy and there's broke people who are greedy. So, you know, it's about positioning your family, because the more money you have, the more options you have. Okay? You can put your kids in better schools. You can take better care of your aging parents. You can, you know, take more frequent and higher quality vacations. You have better Medicare, or you can take better care of yourself from a medical and healthcare perspective. There's a number of things that money allows you to do. Money allows you to not worry about losing your job. If you had a paid off home, or if you have 20 years worth of mortgage payments sitting in a savings account, you're probably feeling pretty good under almost any circumstance, right? So I'm just saying, you know, it's all about understanding what's happening and preparing yourself in any scenario financially. So what's going to happen with these home prices? We don't know. But what I am saying though is, there is going to be some impact. There's going to be some effect. Now, it's going to open up. It's probably going to open up some job opportunities for some legal folks who are here in America. So that's a good thing. But chances are they're going to need or demand being paid higher than what the illegals were willing to work for. So we'll see what happens with that. But at the end of the day, I think the bottom line is this: if you don't have an emergency fund, let this be a warning to you that the clock is ticking, and we're entering this new economy where building wealth is no longer going to be optional. Okay? If you're going to survive in this new economy, in this new age here in America, building wealth is going to be a requirement. Otherwise, you may be one of the families or individuals who end up getting wiped out. And you could be on the negative side, on the downside of this, one of the greatest wealth transfers that we've ever experienced in history. So if you'd like to learn more about how to prepare you and your family, I'll leave a link for you guys in the description down below. You can join our email list, and you can learn more, and I'll provide you guys with, you know, tips and updates and things like that. That way you can prevent you and your family from being wiped out. And not only just, you don't want to just stop getting wiped out. You want to thrive in this world, I think. I think you want to do better, right? So don't sit on the sideline. Don't be a victim. Join the newsletter. Subscribe to the channel. And we'll see you guys on the next one.